Our first artwork for the Spanish Baroque is along the lines of this religious tension that we have been seeing in the Italian Baroque and now in the Spanish Baroque. This is by Jose de Rivera, and this is called The Martyrdom of Saint Philip. What we see here is an image of the apostle Saint Philip, who was captured and tortured and then crucified by hanging by ropes after he had been caught preaching the Christian faith in the Middle East. Now, this is not a contemporary story, but what we see here is a very direct connection to the religious war that is happening in Europe at this time. What we have in Rivera's work is the 87-year-old Saint Philip, and where's my detail here? You can see the strain and the wrinkles on his face, the slackness of his skin and his belly, the extreme naturalism of his form and the others, the tawny muscles, the tan lines. All of this is very familiar to us in the Italian Baroque, especially in Caravaggio. This isn't a surprise because Rivera, he went to Italy and he studied under other Caravaggisti. So the Caravaggisti argument of naturalism, having something that looks like us, rather than these fancy pretty boys, is a way to connect us to our faith. Ms. Cortez, you keep on saying that this is connection to the world that's happening in Spain. Yes, because what we're looking at here is a martyrdom. It's in the title and therefore deserves a definition. Martyrdom, suffering of death by a martyr, which then says, what's a martyr? A martyr is someone who chooses to suffer death rather than renouncing their religious principles. And that's exactly what Saint Philip was doing. Rather than renouncing the Christian faith, he was preaching it in the middle of hostile territory in the Middle East. And what we see is him choosing to die. Look at the way he looks up as if imploring to God, right? His red-rimmed eyes and this blast of light that we see casting these extreme shadows. We could almost consider that tenebrism. More than that, we could say high contrast. I hesitate to say tenebrism just because we don't have a lot of muddied details here, but let's think about our other characteristics. Diagonal lines, yep. Baroque moment, yes. And naturalism of the forms, yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Now, what is this connection to Spain? Remember, we are in the middle of a religious war in Europe, the Reformation and the Counter-Reformation. Now, you might have a familiarity with the idea or the concept of the Inquisition, and I want to formally introduce you to it. So, the Inquisition. The Inquisition is an institution that was established in the Middle Ages, the 1100s, the 12th century, and it was established to root out and punish heresy, immorality, and non-believers. So this is a church-approved office, and the idea is to cleanse those undesirables. I put that in quotes, but what I mean by undesirables are those who are not following the doctrine of the faith set up by the Pope and the hierarchy of the church. Also, whatever they deem to be immoral, such as sexuality, practice of gender, and non-believers. Now, in this map here, I'm focusing specifically on Spain, and what we have and what is often referred to as simply the Spanish Inquisition, because it is the most dominant manifestation of the Inquisition, heavily supported by the state, aka King and Queen of Spain, and it was a concerted effort to rid the country of the non-believers, the immoral, the heretic, and to attack those conversos, or those who had been previously Jewish or Muslim. This is a larger topic than we can talk about in this class, but if you're interested, you can always email me. There is a lot of reliable information, academic level information out there. what we see in this map and what the Spanish historians refer to as the Reconquista is the taking of the Iberian Peninsula from the Muslim forces who had established themselves. These dates here are the dates in which Christian forces took these main Muslim powerhouses. And so we see it happening all the way back into the 11th century for Toledo. During the reign of King Ferdinand of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile, those are the two that sent Columbus along out to find a quicker trade route to India. They established a more firm policy against the conversos, milking them of money in order to pay for the Reconquista of Spain. This is all disgusting and deplorable, but I need you to realize that this is the context of the Spanish Baroque period, because in the Baroque period, what we see is an increase in the Spanish Inquisition. This painting here is a public trial of some of those, quote, undesirables. You might be thinking, well, is the church against this kind of torture and killing and mutilation of human beings? Well, not during the Counter-Reformation. In 1542, Pope Paul III, who was Pope at the time, he established the, quote, Supreme Sacred Congregation of the Roman and Universal Inquisition, and the efforts were to combat Protestants as they were seen as heretic or against the church. So in Spain, this is taken up firmly by Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, there he is, and his son, the King of Spain, Philip II. And this establishes a rule of torture, intimidation, just absolute religious chaos and abuse of power in Spain. Philip also extends this Spanish Inquisition throughout the New World. So all the territories controlled by Spain. This then extends to Philip II's son, Philip III, when he demands for the expulsion of the Moriscos. The expulsion of the Moriscos is the expulsion of the Moorish, or those practicing Muslims. And this painting here is based on descriptions, writings of the expulsion, in which people were literally kicked out of their homeland, Spain, because of their faith, because they did not fall in line with what the Spanish thought to be righteous and true. The argument by all of these kings and the Queen of Spain, I'm thinking specifically of Isabella, was that the problems faced by Spain, the challenges of economic depression and government corruption, were not their fault or the fault of their archaic system of government, the feudal system of government, but the fault of the heresy or the heretic or the Jews and the Muslims that had been living in Spain. Ugh. How does this relate to our martyrdom? Good question. Well, first of all, this painting, we believe, was paid for by the king himself, King Philip. So, martyrdom, Saint Philip, King Philip? Yeah, you got it. We're supposed to be making the connection between the righteousness and the unwavering belief of Saint Philip and our leader, King Philip, and his decision to implement and enforce the Spanish Inquisition. Additionally, people around us are dying for their faith. So this is another connection between the suffering of death in the past and the suffering of death here in Europe during the Counter-Reformation.